1 year ago, we set out to build our own little slice of the jungle.
Somewhere where poison dart frogs, geckos, and invertebrates could live together in harmony. Today we're going to take you guys through the building process, how the tank has evolved and changed over the last year, and we're going to give you some of our tips and tricks for making your own setups. We're going to put timestamps below so that you can skip around or use it to reference or refer back to your favorite parts.
Welcome back to the channel, and thank you guys so much for 3,000 subscribers. We're a small channel, so we're really grateful for all the support that you've given us so far. If you're new here, my name is Jane.
I'm William.
And we make vivariums and aquariums for all sorts of critters for ourselves and our clients.
This right here is our personal slice of the jungle, right in our living room. This is a vivarium, a living ecosystem that's home to live plants and animals that all exist in balance with each other. It's bioactive, which means no cleaning, which is fantastic news for pet owners everywhere. We're going to take you guys through our journey making this so that you can make tanks of your own, or if you're just curious.
Let's go back in time a year. We needed a new home for our 2 dendrobates of Rhodes green black. William was living on the East Coast and had just moved 3,000 miles across the country, road trip style, and we couldn't take the old tank.
We've had these guys since definitely the beginning of the channel for at least 4 years, I think, and they've had a variety of different tanks that they've grown up in over the years. Now that they're full grown, they deserve their best tank yet.
So for this tank, we're using an Exoterra 18 by 18 by 24. It's a 30-gallon glass tank with a mesh lid and a front double door. We actually got this tank for free because when it arrived, one of the sides was smashed. So the glass was cracked and it was not a functional tank, so we got it refunded. But we were really scrappy with it, so we decided that we think we could save the tank and just added on a panel of acrylic to the side and tried to silicone over the cracks to keep it together.
If you guys are building a tank on a budget, definitely check out sites like Facebook Marketplace for used tanks. If you want to make a vivarium like the ones that we make, you might end up covering a lot of the walls with a 3D background or even blacking out the outside like we do, which means that it matters a lot less if those walls are scratched or even cracked. If you guys want to know more about building vivariums on a budget, we have got a video coming out all on our top tips for building vivariums for cheap. So make sure to subscribe to catch that video when it comes out.
So let's get into the build. To create the perfect climate for our frogs who live in a tropical climate, we started by building a waterfall and a fan system. We used a PC fan to circulate the air inside this tank. This will stop the air from getting stagnant and help the plants grow and keep the glass from always fogging up. To house the fan and help circulate the air, we basically built a mini HVAC system within this tank. This was inspired by people like Brad's Bioactive Builds and Troy Goldberg.
Our building material of choice for these tanks whenever we're building structures like an HVAC or a waterfall compartment is going to be these foam boards. It's a sheet of foam that has paper on either sides, and you can score one side of the paper and then snap the foam in half to make a smooth bend that you can control the angle of. This makes it super easy to build all sorts of shapes and scaffolding. We've linked that foam in the description below, along with all our other materials for this build. Along with commenting or leaving a like, using those affiliate links in the description is a great way to help support the channel.
So for our HVAC system, we made a T-shape out of our foam board, so it's 2 pieces. So we make one piece and then another piece, and we put it together. And to make these pieces, we're going to take a piece of foam, score it twice, so that it can be divided in 3 pieces. And then when you fold it, it creates this kind of shape. And if you imagine this is the glass, when you put it up, that's a seal. Okay, so we do 2 of these and we put them on top of each other, and that makes the T shape.
We just join them together by cutting a little rectangle out of the horizontal one where it sits on top of the vertical one, so that air can flow freely through the vertical one and in the horizontal one. Our PC fan sits at the bottom of that T with some wire mesh underneath it. The mesh is going to prevent any critters from getting back there because obviously we don't want them in the air ducts, and it'll allow air to flow in easily. The fan is going to suck air in at the intake at the bottom, push it upwards along the vertical shaft. It's going to split at that junction and go out on either side at the top of the T. And there's outtakes at either side covered in mesh for the air to flow out of. We glued the whole vent system to the back of the tank with the fan inside. This does a great job of keeping all the plants and mosses happy and circulating that air. Our fan is completely adjustable with this switch back here, so we can find the right amount of airflow for our tank based on our temperature and humidity.
We have a whole video on different types of ventilation. If you guys want to check it out, we'll link it below and above. So with this build, you might be asking, isn't the fan sealed in there? And the answer is yes, it is. These fans can actually last a few years under constant use, but when it eventually dies, we're not going to be able to get it out. So because of that, in our newer builds and stuff we do for clients, we've actually switched up our HVAC setup to be an upside down T.
In the upside down T, the fan sits at the top, and this way we can just pop that fan right out if it ever dies and replace it super easily instead of it being buried at the very bottom of the tank with a bunch of stuff in the way.
So next up is time for our waterfall. The waterfall is powered by a small aquarium pump that sits at the bottom of the tank underneath the water level and draws the water upwards. To house the aquarium pump and allow us to access it for maintenance or repair, we made a small box out of foam board. So instead of making 2 cuts, we just made 1 cut since our pump is in the corner. So we just score it at 90 degrees, bend it, and then we have a little box in this corner here.
We also cut a hole in the bottom where the water can flow in, and we poke a little hole about halfway up where our aquarium tubing can come out, and this is where the waterfall is going to emanate from. The pump is tucked away inside this compartment, and the entire thing is capped off with a piece of aquarium sponge. We cut that sponge to be slightly larger than the aquarium pump compartment, just so it expands and fills up that whole space and no animals can get back there. We covered the waterfall intake at the bottom with mesh so that none of the soil or debris can get sucked up and stuck in the pump, and we just glued everything in place with our aquarium safe silicone.
At this point in the build, we know the tank is not looking its prettiest, but all of these components will be completely hidden by our hardscape and our planting, so by the end it'll look really good. But now is where the fun really begins.
We're going to be starting our hardscape next. Hardscape is the bones of your tank. It's really what's going to bring it to life. This could be sticks and stones, other hard things that aren't going to grow and change over time, and this is going to be what gives your tank its overall structure.
So we started with the ghost wood. We posed a few different branches together to look like winding roots of a tree, making sure that the branches flowed in the same direction to look more natural. We tried plenty of different orientations before we found one that we really liked. We intentionally posed the wood so that there's also horizontal spaces so that our frogs have extra flat surfaces to hang out on. Once we had a scape we were happy with, we siliconed the wood in place with black aquarium safe silicone.
Next up, we made a soil pocket on the right side by cutting some more of our foam out. Originally, we wanted the waterfall to flow right into this and have some aquatic plants, but we ended up just using it as a dry planting area.
Next up, we added in cork bark. We siliconed the cork bark flats in place to give the background some more texture and to help blend in our components like the ventilation system. We attached the cork bark vertically to some of the background elements, and we also added horizontal shelves to give even more space for our frogs to hang out on. The more cork you add like this, the less work we'll have to do later to make a 3D background. And sometimes we even make a whole background out of just cork. Video linked above, below, or maybe both.
With all of our hardscape in place, we can give our background some more shape. We use spray foam and silicone. We're going to shake up a bottle of Great Stuff Black Pond and Stone expanding foam and get to spraying. We use this spray foam to fill in every little gap in the background. This is easiest if you go in a zigzag or in a swirl so it has some of itself to stick to. This stuff is the absolute best, okay? It's pet safe and it looks so much better than the white spray foam. It almost looks like black lava rock when it's cured, and if you can't find it in a hardware store near you, it's definitely worth ordering online. One of the biggest mistakes that we see in vivariums is using the white spray foam and clear silicone. The backgrounds always end up looking weirdly reflective and unnatural or fake. Black spray foam and black silicone is going to bring out your shadows, and it's going to make the well-lit parts pop even more. It is absolutely the way to go. 10 out of 10 if you only take one thing from this video.
So the foam will expand as it cures, giving our background a fully fleshed out 3D appearance. We let it cure for 8 to 10 hours and then peel away at it. We want to make sure that the shiny bits of the spray foam is taken away. So we tend to use our fingers because that's easiest, but sometimes an X-Acto knife is a better look, or we do a combination of both to just peel away this exterior. This will leave us with a rough and uneven texture, and all that work we do also helps it feel more naturalistic.
It's going to be matte instead of shiny and reflective, and it's going to have more natural textures. It's also going to give the silicone a rough surface to adhere to. We see a lot of people deposit the substrate directly onto the foam while it's drying, but we would not recommend this. I know you think you might save some time or money, but you lose control of the final shape of your background, and you're going to be stuck with whatever shape it's in when it cures. Additionally, this usually doesn't hold up long term, and bits of the substrate are going to slowly, piece by piece, fall off that foam until you're left with just the foam, especially if you have frogs or geckos or anything crawling on those walls. And here is how the tank was looking post-carving.
Next up, we blacked out the tank. Blacking out the tank is something we do with all of our tanks because we think it really helps deepen those shadows and add contrast to how your tank looks. It doesn't let light come through the back, so it really just immerses, it makes the tank feel more complete.
I think it also makes it kind of like mysterious too, whenever there's spots in the tank where you can't see what's going on, there's fully blacked out shadow. It just makes everything else seem more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a little spooky intrigue, makes you lean in and go, what's going on in there?
Yeah, definitely adds a lot of depth to the tank. For this tank, we use Plasti-Dip, which is a spray on rubber. You can also use spray paint or peel and stick vinyl. And the upside of Plasti-Dip is that, unlike spray paint, you can peel it off later if you don't want it there anymore, or if you want to use a different method. For this Plasti-Dip, we did 3 coats, and with 30 minutes of drying time in between each coat.
With that done, we brought the tank back inside and did a water test. So really, we should have done a water test earlier. I highly recommend you guys do water tests basically every single step as you go, especially if you're gonna have a waterfall or something. Fill it up, make sure there's no leaks, run the waterfall, maybe even leave it overnight, and then move on to your next step. But we were kind of being a little risky, and we waited till now to do our water test. So we filled it up, trimmed our hose to the correct length, and turned on the waterfall, which was very scary, but the waterfall works and the tank didn't appear to be leaking. So we were very happy and we could move on to the drainage layer.
So since this tank has a waterfall pump, there is going to be 1 inch or 2 of water at the bottom of the tank at all times. So to make sure that our soil doesn't get wet or stagnant, we're going to use a drainage layer. Any extra water from misting or watering will also collect here at the bottom in our drainage layer. We like to use black aquarium sponge, which is the same thing we use for the lid of our aquarium pump compartment.
A lot of people like to use leca pebbles or rocks like lava rock for their drainage layer, separated from their soil by a layer of mesh or filter floss. Personally, we prefer to just use sponge since they have a ton of surface area for beneficial bacteria. It's lightweight, a lot lighter than rocks, and you don't need to add mesh or anything in between that drainage layer and the soil to stop that soil from falling downwards. Plus, the sponge is pretty cheap.
Mm-hmm. And it's a nice look too, the layer of black. Okay, finally it's time for silicone. So we smeared black silicone into every nook and cranny of our background, and then we put our substrate mix onto the wet silicone. Our mix is a combination of aqua soil, sphagnum moss, and cocoa fiber. The sphagnum moss retains moisture for our plants. The aqua soil will provide the nutrients. The cocoa fiber gives a really nice color and appearance, and is also a good growing medium for the plants.
Yeah, I think this is the step where the tank really starts to come together, and you get that dirt texture on the walls, and it suddenly starts to look a little bit like a slice of the jungle. So next up, we mixed up some more substrate. This time we added some charcoal for purification, and this is going to be our substrate to go right in the tank on top of that sponge. And with that mixed up and starting to dump it in the tank, we can actually start planting as well. We started with relatively few plants, and they'll be kind of battling it out for light and nutrients, and we might sprinkle in some more plants over the next year. But first off, we had an Alocasia at the front. We wanted this to kind of be the star of the tank. It's got a really beautiful pattern. It can get pretty big. Actually, a lot of you guys said that it would be too big, and we'll just gonna have to see over the rest of the video. But we also added some Boston ferns in the back and an asparagus fern on the wall on the left side.
And we also added a bunch of moss everywhere, a few different kinds for some variety in color and texture. We're using an auto mister for this setup, and we actually recommend it for every setup. It makes life a lot easier and it keeps your plants a lot happier. They're pretty affordable and they just save you so much time and effort.
Especially if you go on vacation or something. Yeah, highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's a great way to mist the tank a couple times a day and keep your frogs, mosses, and plants super happy and on a schedule, like consistent. It's something that they can expect.
We attached the auto mister at the front with its nozzles pointing at the back and side walls. We zip tied it in place, and then it has an aquarium tubing that runs out of it where the water flows in. We ran that across the lid to the back, zip tied that in place as well. That tubing goes out the back to the control box, which sits on the side, and then out of the control box to a water jug that we keep behind the tank, kind of hidden, tucked away, and we refill it every couple weeks. And that is where it is drawing the water from to spray the tank. We always use RO water because it doesn't have any chemicals or impurities that might hurt the frogs, and it also doesn't leave calcium stains on the glass.
Okay, so now that the tank is planted and we have our auto mister and watering system set up, the build is pretty much done. We did add these glass panels on top of the tank to increase the humidity, and we put some grow lights on top of the glass. We set the grow light on a timer, super handy for that as well. Our grow light setting is a 12-hour photo period.
Finally, we can start adding the inhabitants. Let's bring this baby to life. First off is cleanup crew. So cleanup crew is what we call the small organisms that are gonna live in our tank and keep it clean and break down waste. These guys will turn leaf litter, decaying plant matter, animal waste, all into nutrient-rich soil that the plants can use for energy. These are the unsung heroes of any vivarium, and we're using springtails for our cleanup crew. These are these small little white bugs. We added them all over. They're gonna live in the soil and keep this tank clean. And our frogs also love to munch on them when they get the chance, so it's also a great little snack. Along with the cleanup crew, we added some leaf litter to protect the frogs' feet from the damp moss and just to give the cleanup crew something to start munching on.
Okay, now it's time for our stars. We added in our frogs and Thelma and Louise and their babies. So Thelma and Louise are our mourning geckos, and they have a lot of babies all the time. And we're cohabiting these two species, which was our video last week. So check that out if you're interested in what are they doing, how are they doing this, why are they doing this, how can you do this,
what our top tricks are.
So check that video out too if you're interested. But yeah, those are our main inhabitants.
And for this tank, we rely on the mourning geckos being active primarily at night and keeping to the very, very top of the tank because that's where they like to hang out. The dart frogs are going to be active during the day, and they don't necessarily like to go all the way to the top where the mourning geckos hang out, so they stay out of each other's way. We also picked species that are non-aggressive and both pretty much medium sized, so neither of them can really pick on the other.
There's a lot of things to it. Again, video is linked somewhere around here. Okay, for our frogs' diet, we mainly culture fruit flies for them with rapaces, and for our geckos, we give them fruit paste. But as we mentioned earlier, they both also like the springtails, and the geckos also eat the fruit flies sometimes.
We just serve up that fruit paste in a little bottle cap in the back corner. That's like our gecko's food dish. It's pretty fun to watch them all gather and eat it up. And voila! Our awesome self-sustaining ecosystems journey has begun. Everything in this tank exists in a very delicate balance. Water from the auto mister sprays a few times a day, drenching the moss and watering all the plants. Like our waterfall, it trickles down to the substrate and collects in the sponge barrier below. Just like in the real world, when pressure or temperature changes, the water in that drainage layer is going to evaporate and then condense along the glass and plants within the tank as dew.
Waste from our frogs, geckos, and dead plants get broken down by the springtails and turned into fresh, nutrient-rich soil. This fertilizes our plants, who also draw water from the drainage layer as well as from the misting that they get daily.
Our fan circulates the air, which keeps the glass clear and prevents mold from building up on our moss. And similarly, that waterfall pump is going to circulate the water at the bottom of the tank, stopping it from ever growing stagnant.
So this might look pretty good so far, we definitely thought so, but the tank's journey is far from over, and sure enough, and very soon, we encountered our first problem.
A leak.
Uh-oh.
Dun, dun, dun.
So this was our absolute worst nightmare. We did all those water tests, as you saw, and we weren't really even sure where it was coming from, but slowly and surely we were noticing that water was definitely collecting at the bottom of our tank or dripping out the side. So it turns out
our waterfall was to blame. It flowed down that right side, which was the same side that was cracked. I don't know why we chose to put the waterfall on the same side that was smashed to bits. I don't know why we didn't put 2 and 2 together before now, but obviously that was a terrible idea. So whenever the waterfall was running, water would run down over those cracks and little by little find its way out and then drip down the side at a rate of like a droplet every couple hours, which is what made it so difficult to track down. But once we knew what the problem was, it was a pretty easy fix. We ran the waterfall tube to the left instead of to the right and let it just run down the back of the tank instead. And it was a very stressful few days waiting and seeing if it was going to leak. And honestly, we didn't really record as much as we should have because we were kind of in a panic that our personal tank was going to not work out. But everything ended up being okay. The waterfall runs right down that background, and we just let what used to be the pool on that right side kind of fill up with terrestrial plants.
Okay, so let's fast forward a few months and see how the plants and animals are adjusting to their new home. So our first update is 3 months later. Everything is doing really great, and most importantly, our frogs and our geckos are really happy. The geckos stay at the top of the tank for the most part, only coming out really at night, and the frogs will roam the entirety of the tank. There's been no aggression between them. The tank looks really, really good.
And the plants are all growing in. Usually there is a little bit of dieback when you add plants to a vivarium or when you start a new tank, but most of our plants have bounced back pretty well. The Alocasia, #1, has been growing a ton. We keep actually chopping it back. It's such an awesome feature of the tank though. These big broad leaves just create these horizontal platforms at every level, and the frogs will crawl on them, sit on top. The geckos even use the shade of the tallest leaves. So it's just such a cool feature to see. The Boston ferns in the back died. Probably from lack of light, maybe because too much water was falling down onto them. We planned on having the water just go on that right side, but instead it went down in the background. So it might have just been too much direct water, but they did not make it. But we threw in some cuttings of Pothos back there, and those seem to be doing really well. They're super hardy, they can take a lot of water, and they can take a lot of shade.
The asparagus ferns are doing really great, and they have spread to the top of the tank. They fight with the alocasia for light for sure, so that makes sense that they're growing upwards. When we do our maintenance, we always trim off dead parts of any plants that we see, just so that that plant doesn't waste any energy and can, push all its efforts toward new growth.
Given the dieback of our plants and how barren those walls feel, we decided to add a few more plants, starting with some Bromeliads. So we had some Bromeliads left over from a client build, and we just wedged them directly into our foam background. You can stab their stems straight into foam, maybe with a dab of super glue to keep them in place. We put 1 in the back and 1 on either side. Bromeliads are an epiphytic plant, so they don't need their roots to be in soil. They're going to root directly onto walls or branches or whatever you put them on, which makes them a great choice for introducing some more plants to the walls and background of your tank. All you need to do is make sure that their cups stay filled with water.
Also, as a part of this bigger maintenance that we're doing, we trimmed the moss to the base to help promote growth, and then we sprinkled those cuttings throughout the tank to promote even more moss growth. Lastly, in terms of maintenance this cycle, we siphoned out some of the tank water because the mister raises the level slowly over time. So every few months we kind of see, okay, if it's too high, we siphon some out.
Yeah. It might be different for you, but just for us, the amount of misting required is greater than the amount that evaporates from our tank over time. So sometimes we gotta drain it. But you might live somewhere super dry where that's not the case.
5 months in, the tank is even more grown in. So it's time for another round of maintenance. The Bromeliads are doing really great. Our lights are not bright enough for full stress coloring, but we've got some reds and variegation in there. They're rooting to the background really well. Seeing the Bromeliads grow on the walls made us realize that we definitely wanted to add even more plants to this tank. And it was perfect timing because we went to our local reptile expo and got our hands on some very specialized vivarium plants that are harder to find at your normal garden center.
These plants included Marcgravia, Begonia, and a jewel orchid. Marcgravia is a climbing plant that people love for their dart frog setups. We put it over here on the right side, pretty high up, and then we put the Begonia on the bottom so that it can climb along that wall. And we planted the jewel orchid in what used to be the pool. We're super excited to see how these do. These are all awesome plants that we would love to see in here. So it's going to be a little bit of an experiment. We also did our obligatory Alocasia trim, chopping back some more of those leaves. We gave the moss a quick snip as well.
So the geckos have been having a ton of babies, and it is adorable watching them and their little hands crawl around in the canopy. Mourning geckos are parthenogenic. That's what William says it's pronounced. Parthenogenic. Mourning geckos are
parthenogenetic.
So that means that every single member of the species is a female, and they reproduce through self-cloning, which is pretty cool. If you have a colony that's happy, they can and will reproduce all the time. All the time.
We just caught this one trying to make a little getaway out of our tank.
Yeah.
We've had to sell a couple, but the population in the tank is still booming. What's her name? We got a name for her? What do you guys think?
Oh my god. What?
Comment down below.
Oh no.
She's a little escape artist.
Yeah. No thanks.
Every few weeks, we also refresh the leaf litter at the bottom of the tank and wipe down the glass. Sometimes the frogs jump on it and they just get it all dirty. So it's nice to wipe it down with a paper towel or a razor scraper.
Here's what the tank is looking like 8 months after planting. So as you can see, it's looking really nice and lush. All the plants are doing really, really great, and our frogs and geckos, again, are still getting along super happily.
Check out how big that Alocasia is getting though. It's got tons of leaves with no sign of slowing down. It's turning into a really nice centerpiece for this tank. We do have to trim it pretty frequently to stop those leaves from just shading out everything else.
Our jewel orchid that we added last time is growing upwards, and we love the variegated look of its leaves, so we picked up another small one to put along this platform at the top.
The Marcgravia has been spreading to the walls slowly but steadily, so we picked up a slightly different version and added it to the bottom left. We also grabbed some oak leaf creeping fig, which is a more common climbing plant that we've used before and really like.
It's my favorite.
And we put that up on the right near where that first Marcgravia was. And we also got this beautiful red peperomia that we sprinkled up top. I thought that was your favorite.
No. At this point, our tank is getting pretty eclectic. We have a lot of different species of plants in here. As you guys know, we do make a lot of tanks for ourselves as well as clients. So we always are in need of a steady supply of plants. Typically, they live in our grow out bins, but we've actually found that our vivarium is the best place to help plants stabilize, especially if it's a newer plant or a fresh cutting. They just do a lot better in the vivarium. So we've just been sprinkling things in here and there.
And once they grow a little, then we can take a cutting from that, move it to our grout bin, and they usually go okay. But we've lost too many plants that we thought were super cool by throwing them straight in the grout bin, and they didn't make it. So we like to throw them in the vivarium first. All right, 10 months in June, we actually had a vacation for over 2 weeks, which can be a really scary thing when you have a vivarium. So we took a couple precautions before we left. We overfed everybody. We had lots of fruit paste for the geckos, lots of fruit flies for the frogs, plenty of springtails for everybody, which are a more fatty food, which is great. We also left a fruit fly culture in the tank while we were gone with a small hole poked in the lid so that fruit flies could just slowly stream out into the rest of the tank. And that worked super duper well. We also had a pet cam on the outside so we could look in, keep tabs on our frogs, and call a friend if we were worried about anything, which thankfully we did not need to do. After an awesome trip, we came back with a little treat, which is this little bamboo orchid. These little guys are native to Hawaii, and we've never seen one in a vivarium before, so we decided to give it a shot. We put it up top on the right.
So this brings us to 11 months in. All of our plants are doing amazing, starting to climb, cover the walls. It's definitely a lot more grown in than it was 11 months ago. So it's time for a really big trim. Like always, we start with the Alocasia. Each time we chop it back, the leaves just get taller and bigger. So we might have to figure out a different solution. Recently, we noticed that there was a little corm, and now there's actually a little tiny leaf poking out of there. So we're hoping to nurture the little plant, and maybe we'd have to just cut off all the leaves of the big plants.
Or take it out.
But the root system is very...
Yeah. If we do take that plant out, let us know if you guys have any suggestions on what should take its place or whether we should let its child take its place.
Yeah.
The pothos that we threw in the back is doing really, really well. It's grown up a lot, and it's actually kind of overshadowing and shading our bromeliad that's back there. So it's gotta go. We cut back the top so that bromeliad could breathe again, and so we could see it.
Mm-hmm.
This one back here actually has grown an entirely new bromeliad, or a pup is what like the little ones are called. And we cut it off a little while ago and moved it to the front of the tank, and now it's rooting and growing well. So it's actually, our tank's got 4 bromeliads now.
The begonia on the right side was also kind of choking out the bromeliad, so we trimmed that back as well. And finally, we trimmed a bunch of the moss and the climbing plants like Marcgravia, which we redistributed throughout the tank to cover more of the walls.
Okay, we're about to show you guys the tank at the 1-year mark, but first let's flash back and show you the tank right after planting. Okay, and now the tank after 1 year. It has been such an adventure. Our frogs and geckos have seemed super chill throughout all of it. They seem happy, they never fight, they're always eating, they always look good, and it has been really special to watch all those different plants grow in. Which one is your guys' favorite? Let us know in the comments, and if you made it this far, congratulations, because I think this is going to be our longest video ever. So if you made it this far, drop a frog emoji in the comments. Let us know you sat through the whole thing. Let us know if you did 2x, 3x, if you're on that YouTube premium.
3 frogs for 3x speed.
But thank you guys so much for coming with us on this journey. Don't forget to like and hype the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to see more content like this.
If you're in the Bay Area and you want to commission a tank, our commissions are open, so make sure to drop us an email. Our email is down in the description, tangledearthvivariums@gmail.com, or DM us on Instagram at tangledearthvivariums. And make sure to give us a follow too. We're doing some fun stuff over there.
Yeah, so hit us up if you want a commission, or if you want this tank that we featured in the video, maybe shoot us an email, because we're thinking about upgrading our frogs tank.
Yeah.
So we might have to find a new home for this one, and maybe this tank could continue its journey with one of you guys, which would be super cool. But thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you again for 3,000 subscribers. We're super happy, and we're super grateful to all of you.
Okay, that's it for this video, so we will see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.
Say bye. Bye.